everyone, welcome to Make Moments Matter, a music education podcast where I share lesson ideas, songs, games, and inspiring things for your elementary music classroom. My name is David Rao, and I am the music teacher who blogs at makemomentsmatter.org. This episode of the podcast is a replay containing the audio version of a Musical Mondays live video. If you're not familiar with Musical Mondays, every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, I go live on Facebook and Instagram to share about the lessons that I'm using in class with my students. I give a recap of my kindergarten through 5th grade lessons, and then do a deep dive about one grade level and share the books, instruments, songs, and process that I use to teach the lesson to kids. This podcast episode contains all the audio from the Musical Mondays video, but if you'd like to see a replay of the video itself, you can find a link to the archived video on YouTube when you click the link in the notes for this episode. Thanks so much for tuning in. Here's the show. Hey everyone, my name is David Rao, and I'm the music teacher who blogs at makemomentsmatter.org. You can also find my ideas on Patreon, on Pinterest, on Instagram, a variety of other places when you search for my name, David Rao, or Make Moments Matter. Today I'm going to be talking about how I just got done with the concert cycle with 4th grade, and now we're going to jump right onto the barred instruments and the lesson that I use to kind of remind them of a variety of accompaniment patterns. Some people call them drones, some people call them Borduns, but I'm going to run you through the lesson of how I like. We've experienced this, but how we sort of remember what they are and then practice. So that's sort of what I'm going to run you through in this lesson, is how we take Borduns and how I take them back through them. Even though we've tried them over the years in various different lessons, this is the lesson where I sort of just pull back and we try it a couple different ways. I'm going to talk about some little tips and tricks and things I use along the way. A couple things, if you hear about a resource, a book, something you really like in these videos, you can click on my website, makemomentsmatter.org, click the video tab, and there's a whole page with all those links dedicated to all the things that I talk about in these videos. Another thing, I'm going to be at AOSA National Conference this week, starting Wednesday night and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday. If you're there, please come up and say hi. It's always fun to see folks that I only get to see through my computer or through my phone. So come up and say hi. I'm presenting on Thursday morning about ukuleles as more of an elemental instrument, using it more of in the ORF process, the ORF style. So there's still a couple seats open. Come and join us. And one more thing. This is Musical Mondays week 14. So next week is week 15. I do 15 a semester. So at the end of every semester, I put out a little Google form. And in case you want to ask questions about things I've already shared in the semester, or just here's a question I have for my classroom, or here's something that came up, or if there's anything you want to talk about, you can go click into that Google form. You can ask anonymously. You can ask not anonymously. It's totally up to you. That's what I'm going to talk about next week. Okay, so, and that link to that is on the links page if you are interested. You know what? I'm just going to throw it in the chat on Facebook in case people want to do that too. No, I'm not, because I don't. Hold on. I will get that, and I will put that in the chat there on Facebook. Okay, yes, hold on. All right, Facebook, sorry. I was like, I have that ready to go. No, I don't know. Okay, so now I have it. So if you want, you can go add questions. So in this lesson I'm going to share about tonight, this is something that my 4th grader just finished a concert cycle. So they've been really caught up in all the stuff that they've been doing. And I want to jump back into the instruments, but I know that they need a little refresher, because I know that my students, it's maybe been a while since we've done all the things. I want to take them in exploration and improvisation, but I know that I need to hit some of those things. And one of the things that I need to make sure that I do is talk about accompaniment patterns. Some people call them drones, some people call them Borduns, but these are basic, simple patterns that we use with kids that we can improvise over the top of, that you can use with a ton of different folk songs. If you want to talk about how to use them, how to orchestrate, how to be smart and thoughtful with these Borduns, with these drone patterns, come take ORF Level 1. Because that's where you get a ton of information and a lot of great application for your classroom of how to write your own accompaniment patterns, write them successfully, come to level 1. It's very, very helpful. But I'm going to give you the crash course of what I do with my 4th graders, what I did with them today, sort of taking them through. Now, prior knowledge, some things my 4th graders have already done. They have already played the instruments. They've already accompanied. They've already explored on melodies. They've already done a lot of improvisation in previous years, in previous lessons, but it's been a while. because this particular fourth grade program, we just don't end up playing the barred instruments. And so we haven't really played them a ton this year. So they do need a refresher. So, but they have done a lot of this before, and they have heard me talk about accompaniment versus melody versus harmony. Like they know those words. But in this lesson, we're going to talk about how to accompany. Oh, another thing, another prior knowledge thing. They know the song that we're going to accompany. We do Farmer's Dairy Key. I lost the farmer's dairy key. I'm in this lady's garden. Do let me out. I'm in this lady's garden. It's a cute little song. They know it already. We've done it a ton of different ways with different things, but today is the day that we're going to accompany and sing along. So the first thing we have to do is hand out the instruments. And with my students, I go over like when you get your instrument, you got to make sure that the letters on the instrument are not upside down. Okay, that's the very first thing. And then you need to take bars off. You cannot, my rule is you cannot have anything in your hand. You especially cannot have mallets in your hand when you take bars off. We talk about why you take bars off when you take bars off. Now, this particular instrument that I have here, this is the Sonar Spirit series. And you might notice the bars are not coming off because this is a special instrument that the bars are held in with different fasteners than on other instruments. So this one is a little different, but it's the one I have at home. So the ones at school that I have like the nail in them that you can just pull the bar straight off. So with these, you do the same thing. You pull straight off. It's just a slightly different way that they're connected. They have a little nail in the bottom that pops into basically a bracket to hold them on. But it's kind of, it was weird when I first turned this over. I had a little freak out. The bars are going to fall. They don't. So this instrument's a little different. So it's not the one I demo with at school. But with school, my students just take off the bars. And then I teach my students to put the bar in the box, sort of leaning away. Obviously, I can't do that with this instrument because it doesn't allow it. But I'm not as fussy with where they put the bars because I just want to, for this lesson specifically, I want them to be able to take off the bars, put back on the bars. I want them to improvise without having to worry about fa and t on the instrument. So I'm not fussy where the bar goes. But anyway, you're going to see my students. I always say you can't have anything in your hands, especially mallets. You lift straight up, one hand on each side, and then you put it in the place that we talk about. Okay, so I'm just going to take off F's and B's and move them over to the side. So with students, when I'm talking about these accompaniment patterns, I do call them drones. I do call them Borduns. And with students, like I use that word, like if students are learning, my third graders, I found out one of their vocabulary words is mirth, M-I-R-T-H. If they can spell and use the word mirth, then I'm okay saying drone and Bordun, and like I'm going to use that word. And whether or not they like know exactly what it means, as long as they know it's the accompaniment pattern, okay. So anyway, we already know Farmer's Dairy Key, so what I have them do is find their biggest bar. Should be a C. I'm playing an alto, but with my students, I have them do whatever instrument they have, alto, soprano, bass, I don't care. We're just practicing the act of playing this pattern. So I don't care. I mean, ultimately, it's going to move to a bass instrument, like they're going to be playing on a bass if they're going to be accompanying ultimately, but for arrangements or, like, because the other voices are going to do other things. But in this lesson, all students are all playing. They're all practicing how to play the drone, right? So I start with a chord Bordun, a chord drone, and that means that they're playing C and a fifth above, always an open fifth, so C and G, right? So with my students, I say find your biggest bar, that's Do, and then move up to the biggest So that you have. And on the board, I have a visual of a xylophone. It looks like this. It has the things labeled. It also has solfege labeled on there, so kids can look up and see and make that connection. So find your biggest Do and your biggest So. And actually the biggest So, it should be right after this little jump, after this empty space. Okay, I don't know what the mic is catching here. I hope this is not killing the sound here. But I say chord is when you play your hands together. Let's just try it with a steady beat. I've lost the farmer's dairy key. I'm in this lady's garden. Do let me out. I'm in this lady's garden. I've lost the So we always play that one 2 times through. And we just try it with a chord drone, just with a steady beat to start. Super easy. We try that a couple times. Kids need good practice with that. At this point, I'm not worrying so much about them playing. I mean, I'm looking for a steady beat. They're 4th grade. Hopefully they've got that, right? I'm mostly looking, are they playing C and G? A lot of kids get confused and play C and E. And you can usually hear that, but if not, you can see that if they've taken this bar off, you can see they're on the bottom 3 bars instead of on 3 bar, one on a set of 3 and one on a set of 2, right? Because when you have this instrument set up, you should have a set of 3, a set of 2, a set of 3, a set of 2. So it's easy to visually see, like, who do I need to go check in on? Who do I need to talk about? But we just play with a steady beat. But that's good practice. And we play hands together. And so then this is when I start talking about, are you holding the mallet the right way? I use the analogy of a turtle. And this comes from the Rocky Mountain Orph chapter, and I'm blanking on exactly who first used it. Barbara Knoebel, I think. I was told this here at the Rocky Mountain Orph chapter, using the example of a turtle. And so everyone knows a turtle has a long neck with a head on the end, a little tail, feet that can come out, and the shell. And you can make your hand look like a turtle too, a long neck with a head on the end, little tail sticking out the back of your hand. Your hand is the shell, and then your feet can come out if you need them to, right? So you make a little turtle. But turtles, everyone knows, do not like to be laying on their back. So then you want to have, the back of your hand facing on top. They don't like laying on their side. So I use this visual of a turtle, and this is the moment when they're playing the chord drone, which is super simple and easy, where I can check hand position. Are they holding it correctly? The other thing that I always talk about with the turtle is, there was this one little mean little girl who came in and said, "Hello, little turtle, how are you doing today?" and pushed its little head down into the sand. By the way, if you're listening to this as a podcast, you're missing my amazing, ridiculous faces right now. So I hope you come back and watch the video. Okay, anyway, so pressing down on the turtle's neck. Okay, so that's mean. We don't want to do that to the turtle. And then she went to her little hand mallet, her hand turtle, and she put her finger on its neck, and she did the same thing. Okay, kids putting their index finger on the shaft of the mallet, it actually makes sense. They want more control, right? They want to make sure they're hitting the right bars at the right time. Putting your finger there does give you more control and more stability, but it also usually dampens the bar. It instead of the bar ringing, what happens usually is they put so much pressure is that the bar doesn't really vibrate, and so they don't get as good of a sound. So I use this analogy of, don't put your finger on the poor turtle's neck. Instead, wrap your finger around, because that really helps them with the visual, right? So it helps them with the idea of not putting their finger on that mallet. Now, what I usually do is I have the turtle come and check kids. So if there's a kid who's putting their finger on the turtle's neck, the turtle's like, "Oh my gosh, I see someone in the second row who's putting their finger on the mallet." It's like the turtle does the correction, which is hilarious, and kids like it. They are not as they don't feel as called out if the turtle's calling them out. And so we play around with that. So in this first drone pattern, in the chord Bordun, in the chord drone, what I'm looking for is, are they playing steady beat? Are they playing the correct notes? Are they putting their finger on the mallet? And then also, how hard are they playing? Are they playing too hard? Are they playing too soft? I'm looking for very, very basic things, because it's been a long time since we played, and I want to just check that before we move on. I'm looking for all these basic things. I'm giving tons and tons of little redirections, which is why I think it's hilarious when principals come in and they're like, "Are you giving informal assessments?" And I'm like, I just gave 13 formal assessments, along the way. I correct that kid's hand hold. I corrected that kid's posture. I corrected this kid who wasn't playing the right notes. This one's not doing a steady beat. This, those are all little informal assessments that we do that, help kids along the way. So eventually, kids will get tired of just singing this song and playing the chord drone. So then I have them rotate. I have them move to a new instrument. And even though they're doing the same thing, they're still playing a chord drone on the instrument, still playing for the regular song. It feels different because the bars might be slightly bigger, slightly smaller. They might get to be playing the bass, which they're so excited about. They might be able to play the glockenspiels, which some kids are excited about. But it just rotating mixes things up, makes things feel more fresh, and means that I can keep teaching that same content and refining without moving to something new. I can still take time to refine and rework, even though I'm still doing the same content. But okay, moving spots, great. Okay, eventually we move to, even before we move away, I say, and now instead of a steady beat, can we do a pattern? So instead of steady beat, let's do something with, oh my gosh, the most important phrase you will learn. Will you be my friend? Will you be my friend. Then they play, will you be my friend? And so it's so friendly, it's so nice. We've come up with many other versions of this, but this pattern is simple and you can sing along. I've lost the farmer's dairy key. I'm in this lady's garden. Do let me out. I'm in this lady's garden. Okay, so like you can come up with any other words you want, but will you be my friend is an easy one. We use it a lot in the Orff world. So now we're still doing a chord drone, but now we're doing it with a rhythmic pattern, with a rhythmic ostinato. Right? So now it's like slightly different and it's a little bit trickier than just a steady beat, but still pretty basic. Still something that my students have done in previous years and just we're using as review. But eventually we moved to a broken drone. And so what I say is, okay, so you're moving your hands always together, like it was a stick, like they're moving at the same time, but then eventually we got to break that stick. And now instead of moving hands together, now we're going to move hands separately. And you always have to start with the biggest bar first. So we're going to play the same two notes, do and so, or C and G. And we're going to play the bigger ones because we could play the smaller ones on our instrument. We're going to play the bigger ones, but you have to start with the biggest bar. So let's go back to a steady beat. So now we're playing hands separately, right? That's a broken drone. I've lost the farmer's dairy key. I'm in. So the same thing is like we play with a steady beat. We sing along. I encourage kids to sing along. If they can't sing along and focus and do this, then I let them just worry about the accompaniment. But many kids, most kids can do both. And we're on a steady beat. For some kids, this is easier, moving hands separately. For some kids, it's harder. So we try that, we play. We always do the biggest bar first. I almost always have to call out one kid for doing something where one hand does everything, where one hand is just jumping back and forth. There's always a kid who does that. And so I always look for that because I expect that. Another thing is that, yeah, we can try it with our ostinato again. Will you be my friend? Will you be my friend? And then the thing is that when we restart that pattern, when we do will you be my friend, you're always starting with your biggest bar. Because I knew this kid, his name was Will, and he was like really big. And so he would like so tall. He was like the tallest kid in the class. So you have to start with, like, that's a ridiculous story I tell, but kids remember that. So for will you be my friend, you have to start on C. Okay. So we do a pattern there, right? Okay, so then eventually, then we rotate, we move around, we try, I take out less, I support them less, I do less, so that they're doing more on their own, more independently. Again, singing, playing, doing the whole thing. Eventually, we get ready to do the crossover Bordun, the crossover drone, sometimes called the arpeggiated Bordun or arpeggiated drone. And with this, I say, put those mallets down, put them to sleep on the bars, and now we're going to use our knees. We're going to just do body percussion. So if we did chord, that'd be hands just patting together, right? Broken would be one and then the other. Okay, so now we're going to do one called a crossover, and watch this. It's going to go bum, 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 bum. And I can't tell based on my phone / my computer if it's mirroring the video or not. I think Facebook is not. So, but what I do is I set up my instrument so that my instrument is set up the same as so it's like if a kid walked up to my instrument from their side, they would see the letters are right side up. So I'm playing it backwards. So kids are matching me, and they're going low, medium, high, right? Like if we're thinking of the range of the instrument. So sorry if the video is confusing because of that. Bum, bum, bum. And so we just practice that of like knee, knee, shoulder, knee, knee, shoulder. And then I say, oh my gosh, this is so weird. You walked through nuclear waste yesterday. You walked through some like, Spider-Man style magical goop or whatever. And now you've grown a third knee. It's bizarre. But now instead of going up to your shoulder, you're going to go left, right, over, left, right, over to this new knee that you grew last night because of being bitten by a radioactive spider or whatever. I don't know. A radioactive wheelbarrow. I don't know. Anyway, so you're going to go over to that third knee. Bum, bum, over, bum, bum, over. And then they practice that. And then eventually we move that to the bars. And we just play do and so, right? So we're doing do, so, up to your high do. So C, G, C, C, G, C, C, G, C. And we practice that. We get really good at that. And then we add our sing. I've lost the farmer's dairy key. I'm in this lady's garden. Do let me out. I'm in this lady's garden. You gotta always sing it twice. And that is the house rule. They always go through and sing that song twice and play through twice. Do kids rush? Yeah. Lost the farmer's dairy key. I'm in this lady's garden. Do. They always do. And so one of the things that worked with one class was, I've lost this farmer's dairy key. I'm in this lady's garden. Do. And then I go, guys, that is the most dramatic. We can't do that. Dun, 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 dun. But you can't go like, whoa, that's too dramatic. So we'll do like, just like quietly dramatic, to try and help them feel that rest in there. Eventually we do move to a continuous pattern. I find that if I try and start with that, I have more kids who will do like a sticking the G. And so I always start with G, C, or sorry, C, G, C, repeat, C, G, C. So it feels like one thing that they repeat. Because also in continuous, kids get lost in that a lot. So I usually start with a pattern that just goes up, and then we'll do a continuous pattern. Things I'm looking for here. Kids who do not do the crossover. I call it a crossover. And so this hand is crossing over the other one to play the high C. Right? There are always kids who do a little hippity hop. And they have just their right hand do the jump G, C, and I just go, it's called a crossover. And that's not a crossover. That's a little hippity skip, jump, cheat. You can't do it. Sorry. And so that's one thing I look for. I also look for, oh my gosh, you guys, I was warned about this. There's something wrong with the instruments. We have a sticky sew. There are a couple of those sticky sews. Listen, here's what's happening. Mouths are getting stuck because of the sticky sew. There's something wrong with that sew. We got to make sure you're bouncing off. So we don't want that. We want. Right. So those are just things that I look for. Ways to make that silly so kids are not like they don't feel like they were zapped by you calling them out on that. The turtle will call them out on it. Today I grabbed a yellow scarf and I blew a samba whistle and I was like, flag on the play. The whole back row is doing that. And so like, they were like, what? I was like, sports, right? Yellow card, flag, I don't know. Repeat the down, 20 yards, penalty. Like, the Chiefs are really big. So anyway, so I like try and be silly about it. In fact, there was a kid who consistently was doing something today. They were playing with their fingers on the mallet. I threw a flag at that yellow scarf and I like blew my whistle. I was like, flag on the play. And then later someone else was doing it. And that kid, I go, you're my new referee. Go. You know what to do. And the girl went over. She's like, flag on the play. Anyway, it was hilarious. But we just like make it silly. But it's correcting little errors over and over and over. Again, we're not doing anything crazy with the song because the song is the thing that we already know. And so we're just accompanying it tons and tons of different ways. We sing, we rotate a lot so that they feel like it's new. Every few minutes we're trying something different. So by the time we're done, we've played a chord drone. We played broken. We played crossover. And we've done it with just steady pulse. And we've also done ostinato patterns. So in these like 20, 30 minutes, they take the song they already know and they do like a bunch of different accompaniment patterns. Why am I doing this all in one lesson? Well, I want them to make sure that they know the different versions because in this year, we're going to just run and do a lot of this. So in this lesson, we're like remembering, reviewing, but also I'm checking like, okay, these 4 kids can't keep a steady beat still, or these kids, I need to make sure, just giving a review about how you hold them out, or, like all these little basic things that like, they've forgotten over time. So this lesson is one like, it feels like a superfoods lesson. Like it's like getting all these things all at once. And even though we're not doing a ton with it, like we've taken this, we already know the song. we're getting to a lot of things on the instrument, lots of review, lots of playing. And in the next lesson, we're going to take this, we're going to choose a couple drones, we're going to play it a couple different ways, and then we're going to improvise using like some given words or some given rhythms. I'm going to let them improvise in a B section, and then we'll play, we'll sing, and then we'll have a B section of improvisation. These are just some little things for drones, for Borduns. Again, you can use either word if they're like functionally interchangeable, but please come to ORF level 1 and we'll talk about why you should use one or the other. But if you want to know more about drones, if you want to know more about playing, if you want to know more about instrument technique, think about taking level 1 next summer. Like now's the time to start thinking, where's there a course near me? Can I get my school to pay for it? Are there grants that'll pay for it? Maybe I want to go away and I want to do something residential where I can like stay on campus, and like, I mean, there are courses that do that. So now's the time to start thinking about that, because you learn so much in level 1. It is so absolutely beneficial, not just for like barred instrument technique, but like for recorder, for movement, for like pedagogy in general. Like please consider taking a levels course. It is so absolutely helpful. Speaking of ORF levels and ORF in general, I hope that I'll see so many of you this week in Lexington, Kentucky for our national conference. If I see you there, come say hi. I'd love to meet you or see you again, because I sit here and I talk to my computer. So it's like nice to know, like, oh, hey, you were listening and it's helpful. Like that's so cool and nice to know. So if I see you in Lexington, I hope I'll see you there. If not, I'll see you next week for the last Musical Mondays video of the semester. If you have questions, drop them in the question form, which is on the links page. I also put it in the chat on Facebook. So go and ask those questions, because that's what I'm going to do next week, is just like answer questions or riff on, I guess, whatever. If nobody asks any questions, I'm just going to talk about puppets the whole time or something. But anyway, I just wanted to leave that as a final thing so that you remember that you can go and ask questions and put those in. Okay, well, I hope I'll see many of you in Lexington in just a couple days. If not, I'll see you next week for another Musical Mondays video. Have a great night, everyone.